Visualizing survey data might feel quite a bit more challenging than visualizing a standard dataset like sales. And that's why in this video I'm going to give you 3 chart alternatives that provide the same survey insights but shown in a different way. And we will talk about what to watch out for when you work with survey data. Let's dive in. Let's have a look at the survey data we are going to base our charts on. So this survey data is about people's hotel experience and it contains 6 questions. How satisfied were you with the staff, facilities, cleanliness, comfort, value for money, and the location? And people were asked to rate it from 1 to 4. 1 being very bad, 4 being very good. Now this is also called a Likert scale. All right, now besides these questions and the responses, we have over here the date on which the survey was answered, and we have the response ID because it was anonymous. But that doesn't mean we do not have more information about the people that responded and that filled it out, because there's a second tab, and there we have more information like the age and the gender. All right, now let's go to Power BI and connect to this Excel workbook and straight away go to Power Query first, because there are some changes that we have to do first before we can build the visuals. So over here, I'm in Power BI and I'm going to click on the Excel workbook connector. Then let me choose that Excel workbook and open it up. Now we want to have both the respondents information as well as the survey responses, and we are not going to load it directly to a model. Instead of that, we go to Power Query first, because to be able to make the charts that I have in my mind, we need to make sure that the table has the right structure, which is of course always important, whatever data you're working with, but especially with survey data, I see people struggling here. Now, what is going on is that here we have separate columns for each question, and that is wrong, because as soon as I want to have a nice breakdown by question, it's not possible because they're in separate columns. And that's the same when you're working with pivot tables and pivot charts in Excel. What we need to do is we need to unpivot the question columns so that we have 1 question column and 1 answer column. All right, so we need to turn these columns into rows. Now, if that all goes a little bit too fast for you, then just check out this video over here where I go over all of the details. All right, now how to do it though is to either select the columns that you want to unpivot or select the columns that you don't want to unpivot. Go to transform and then choose here from unpivot columns, unpivot other columns. All right, and now you see exactly what I mentioned before. We have a question column and we have a value column. So probably we should then also rename it like that. Now you can just double click on the header and rename it, or you can do it directly in that unpivot other columns tab. Now you just have to go to the formula bar. If you don't see the formula bar, just go to view and turn the formula bar on. And then over here, you see the names of these 2 columns. Attribute is going to be the question column, and value, that's going to be my, value column, score column. I like to call it answer column. Okay. Now with this structure, we're actually already in a good place to start building our charts, but we can still do 1 step better. And that is to place the descriptive information about the questions in a separate table, just like we have for the respondents. There we have already a separate table with the respondent's ID and then the descriptive information like age and gender. Now, here you might wonder, yeah, but for question you just have 1 descriptive attribute. Doesn't make sense. Well, probably in reality you have not just that 1 descriptive attribute, but you also have question category, maybe you have the survey name, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to place that question column in a separate table so that later on we can also build a proper star schema, which is basically the best way to store your data within Power BI, right? So I'm going to right click on the column header question and then say add as new query. Now you see that gives us a list with all of the questions, but I only want to have the unique value, so I remove the duplicates just like this, and then I turn this into a table. Just click here on OK. You see, now we have just a small table with all of the unique questions. Now let's rename that column and call this one question. And then we could add more descriptive information here. For example, by going to add column, and let's say we have the question category, which is always there at the end. Then we can say add column, and then we have to look for extract over there. And we want to have the text after the delimiter. Now the delimiter is going to be a space, which we have there between the and then the category. So I'm going to put in a space. And then we have to go to advanced options because we don't want to go from the left. We want to go from the right, from the end of the input. All right. And click here on OK. And that gives us the category. Now also over here, we can just rename that column directly within that step. So over here we have the question category or question short, however you want to call it. So just like this, we can add more descriptive information to this table. And a table like this is called a dimension table. So let me call this one dim question. Then over here, the respondents. That one is also a dimension table, but then for the respondents. All right. And then over here, the survey responses. That is a fact table. So over here, we have FCT with the survey responses. Now, to be able to link the survey responses to the question table, we could, of course, link it in a data model later based on the question. However, this is not ideal. It's probably better if we just have an integer column. So let's create one. I'm going to go to add column again, index column from 1. All right, that gives us an index, the key. And also here, let's call this then question ID directly from within the formula bar. You can do it, and that's it. Okay, and that's the whole question dimension table. I see that the question doesn't have a data type assigned yet. Let me do that quickly. So this is text. All right, perfect. Now that question ID I have in this table, but I don't have it in the survey responses table. So here I still have the normal question. Now, what we need to do is basically replace what we have here with the question ID. And one way to do that is to merge the dim question table to this one and then bring over the question ID, and then we can get rid of the original question column. So let me go over the steps quickly. I go here to the Home tab. Then here we have Merge Queries. I want to merge the survey responses to dim question. And I want to do the lookup basically on the question column and the match. All right, left outer, that's fine. We have perfect match anyway. So let's click here on OK. And that gives us a new column with all of the matched rows. And you see that when I click right next to the table, and here we have the match row from the dim question table. Now we just need to expand them. So I'm going to go here to the dim question header, click there on expand, and I want to bring over the question ID and not have the prefix. And that's it. Now we can get rid here of the original question column, just like this. Perfect. And now we're in a good place to load our tables to a model, set up the relationships, and then we can build our 3 charts. So here on the Home tab, click on Close and Apply. Perfect. Our 3 tables are loaded. Let's then go to the modeling view and see if we have the relations already set up. Now, I have auto detect relationships set on, so therefore the relationships happen automatically. If not, you still have to drag question ID on question ID and response ID on the response ID. Now, of course, if we want to analyze the data over time, then it's probably also a good idea to add a date table. All right, but for our charts, that's not necessary. So let's leave it as it is. And let's go here to the report view and build our visuals. Now, all of the charts should provide more insights into the booking experience by showing the proportional amount, so the percentages of what people answered, from very good, good, bad, and very bad for the different questions. So let's get started with chart number 1, which is going to look like this over here. Now, that is a 100% stacked bar chart. And we can do this chart actually in 2 ways. Let me show you both. First of all, we could go for writing measures that count the number of responses that were very bad, and then bad and good and very good. So I'm going to go here to my survey responses table, add a new measure, and let's call this one count, and then answer and very good. And for this, we can, well, count the rows. So if we just do count rows, or you can also use one of the other count functions, and then the survey responses. All right, this lets us know how many answers we have, right? However, we only want to have the very good ones, so we need to put a filter in place, and that we can do with a calculate function. So I'm going to put my cursor there in front of count rows, type in a calculate function, okay, and here we want to have the filter on the answer. So answer column, and this needs to be equal to a very good response to a 4, because 4 is very good, 1 is very bad. Okay. And that's it. Now we have to create measures also for the other answer option. So let me do that quickly. And there you go. Here we have 4 measures. And the only thing that changes between them is the filter that we place there on the answer column. All right. Now let's build the visual. I'm going to use a 100% stacked bar chart. So over here, we can choose it from here or go to insert and then choose it from here. Now the 100% stacked bar chart, that is this one. Let's place it in the middle, and then we can simply add the measures one by one. And we want to have a breakdown by the questions. So I'm going to go here to our question table, and over here, I want to have the question category or the short form of the question. There you go. You see now for each category, we have the proportional amounts, but it doesn't look that pretty yet. So let's go here to the formatting options and make a few changes. Now let's maybe start with the colors. I don't want to change the theme. I stick to the theme that we have. However, I do think there are better colors to choose from. So I'm going to go here to very good. Now let's go for this blue. All right. Then we go to good. For good, I'm going to choose a lighter blue. And then for bad, let's choose an orange color. And then for very bad, I'm going to choose a red color over here. Okay, perfect. Now looking at the chart, the sorting doesn't really make sense. So how can we fix that? Well, what we could do is go here to the three dots, sort the, oh no, here we cannot sort it because this is the sorting of the questions, not the order in which we have the legend or the data series. For that, we have to go here to the builds panel. Let's make this a little bit wider. And here what matters is the order in which you added them on the x-axis. So what we want to have is very bad first, then we want to have bad, good, very good. All right, now that already looks better. Let's then go back to formatting. And then here for the y-axis and x-axis, we don't need the title. So I turned those off. So let's go also here to the x-axis, turn it off. And then here for the title, let's go for something different. Let's go for booking experience. Now, why is it that the legend items look so long? Well, that is also here in the builds panel. It's just the name of the measure. So here, if we just get rid of the beginning parts, then it will look much cleaner. So let's do that. Now that is already better, but let's then also put it here in the middle. So I'm gonna go back to formatting options, legend, and let's put it here in the top center. And the title we don't need, and that one we can turn off. Now that already looks much cleaner, but it's probably helpful to have the actual percentages on the different parts. So let's go here to data labels, turn them on. And then here we don't need the 2 decimal places. So therefore here in the detail, we can put the value decimals to, let's say, 0. And let's make them as small as possible, just like this. And let's make the font size maybe also a bit smaller. There you go. Now, still, I think we can make it a bit better to separate the parts from one another. And that is actually a newer feature. So if we go here to bars, all for series, layout, there we can say what the spacing should be between the series. So if we drag this up a little bit, you see we have these blocks now because they're separated with a little white line in between. Okay, kind of nice. And then let's make the columns or the bars also a little bit less wide. So I put this space between the categories a little bit up. And there you go, here we have chart number 1. But I also told you there's an alternative way in which you could achieve exactly the same result. And that is by not creating all of these measures, but instead work with a column. Let me show you what I mean. This brings us actually back to the beginning part, how your data is structured. Now, I'm going to go back to Power Query by clicking on Transform Data. Go here to Survey Responses. Then we can add a conditional column. And let's say this is then answer category. And then over here, we can say if the answer equals 1, then it is very bad. All right, and now let me also add the other clauses quickly. And once you have all of them, just click on OK. And there you go, here you have your new column. Now we just have to apply the changes. And now back to the chart, let's just make the changes to this existing chart so that we don't have to start from scratch. So I'm going to remove everything that we have on the x-axis. The question category stays. And now we just need one more measure, easy one, which is just the count of all of the responses. So I'm going to add a new measure. Let's call this one count. And here we just count the rows with all of the responses. Okay, then we can add that measure to our visual. And now we want to have the breakdown by the answer category, that new column that we just added. So I'm going to place answer category over there on the legend. And ta-da, we have the same result. However, you see some of the formatting, well, is gone. The colors are not there anymore because now we have to reassign the colors because before it was matched with a measure. Now it is one of the legend items, right? So we have to go back to the bars and quickly make the same changes. So let me do that quickly. Now, besides the color, also the sorting is off. We want to have very bad here on the left-hand side, then bad, then good, then very good. So to fix that, we have to go here to the data panel and then look for the answer category column. All right, and this column needs to be sorted by the answer, where we have the numeric value. So the sorting of the legend is fixed, but maybe you also want to have a different sorting here for the y-axis. For example, from the very highest percentage with very good to the lowest. Well, then you still need one of these measures like very good. I'm going to add that to the tooltip section so that it doesn't change the visual itself. So I'm going to go here to the builds panel, tooltips, and then survey responses and take very good as the sorting measure. And then I go here to the three dots. Sort axis, and you see now it's there, count, answer, very good. And you see now we have everything in descending order on the basis of the percentage of very good. Okay, and that's it. Let's now go to chart number 2, which is going to look like this over here. Now you see, kind of similar to before. However, here the good and very good parts, they go to the right, and bad and very bad go to the left. Let's see how it's done. I'm going to go over here to my data panel because we first need to write some measures. Now here we want to calculate the percentage of answers that were very bad. So let's call it like that. And here we want to divide. Now we already have the number of very bad answers, right? So we have that measure. So let's say over here, very bad. And we want to divide that by the total number of responses. Well, that one we also have. So divided by the count. Now here, this will give us the percentage value. However, I want it to go to the left-hand side, so I'm going to multiply that by -1. Now let me create the measures for the other 3 answer options also quickly. And there we have all of our 4 measures. Now the only difference between them is the reference there to the count measure, as well as if it's bad or very bad, it multiplies by -1. All right, now let's go back to the chart and then open the builds panel again. Now over here, I don't want to have what is on the legend and the tooltips, take that out, and also not what is on the x-axis. Now we're going to add the 4 measures to our visualization. So I'm gonna go back over here and just add them one by one, maybe in the right order, which is first very bad, then good, then very good. Now you see, this looks quite okay, but let's quickly change the colors again, just like we had before. And after you do this, you see something is off. And that is that, well, the very bad are after the bad. Why is that? Didn't we set it up correctly? Here, yeah, first very bad, then bad. However, the order is from the y-axis over here, right? So what we need to do is put very bad after bad, all right? And now it makes sense again. Okay, now, why is there no space between over here bad and good? Well, that has something to do with this setting. If you go back to bars, all, and then here layout, we set the space between the series to 3 pixels. And somehow, not when there is a y-axis. Don't ask me why. So I'm going to put this to 0. And then over here, we need to get this in another way, which we could do maybe with a border. So let's turn the border on. And then just make it white. And you see you have a similar effect. You can increase the border, you see. However, it doesn't look completely clean. If you really zoom in, there, you see there's a little bit of a line still shining through. Again, I don't know why that is. Okay, so, however, we have the chart that we were looking for. I'm just going to put the borders a little bit back. All right. Now also here to fix what is in the legend, we have to go to the builds panel and then just rename over here the measures. And then here from the 3 dots, more options, sort axis. There we can also say how we want to have the axis sorted. And we could, for example, say very good. And then over here in descending order, which it is already. Now you see when the label doesn't fit, you can either make the chart a little bit bigger. So that's one option. Or you can also go here to formatting options, data labels. Just make everything as small as possible for the detail value. And so, but we already did put it to 8. And so there's not much more that you can do. So this is chart number 2. Let's now go to chart number 3, which is going to look like this. Now you see quite a bit different from before because now we have separate data bars for each answer option. So this we can achieve with small multiples. Now let's build it. Back over here in Power BI, we again need a new measure. Now what we don't have yet is a percentage measure. So let me just call this one percentage. And over here we can divide. And we want to divide the count by the total number of responses that we have for a specific question. And so we can do that with a calculate function where we, again, refer to the count, but we remove the filter. Either we have removed filters or all selected. Now for this example, doesn't matter. All selected just keeps filters from outside, like slicers. And over here, we need to remove only the filter from the answer and answer category, because both one is sorted by the other. All right, so let's do it like this. And that should give us the percentage. Now, before I'm going to add it, let's also update the format so that we have it in percentages and 0 decimal places. Perfect. Now let's take that last example as a starting point and let's remove again everything from the x-axis. And then on the x-axis, I'm going to add our new percentage measure. All right, so now we need to turn this into small multiples. Now, just like before, we have the stacked bar chart. And now the field that's going to divide it up is going to be the answer category column. And that basically gives us the same chart, but then 4 times, right? Now I want to have them right next to one another. So I'm going to go into Format, Small Multiples, and here we can choose the grid. So over here, I want to have just 1 row, 4 columns. Okay, now let's make it a little bit wider and less high. And let's put it here in the middle. Okay, not bad, but of course we can do a little bit better. First of all, color again. So I'm going to go here to bars, and now here I want to have a different color from very bad, bad, good, and very good. Okay, but I can only choose what's here on the axis. Okay, now that's a bit of a problem. However, nothing we cannot overcome, because I see there an FX button for conditional formatting, which always gives us more options. So we can just write the rule. If we are over here in the very bad small multiple part, then everything should be red. If it's bad, then orange, good, blue, and then very good, dark blue. Okay, so let's write this conditional formatting measure that we can then use there for the color. So let's go here to the data panel, add a new measure, and this measure is going to be for conditional formatting. We could use a switch or if, whatever you prefer, to check which answer category we are looking at, just a selected value or answer category, that works. All right, because there's only one category in the filter context, and then we just have to list all of the colors. And so over here, color 1, color 2, right? Now let me just copy that over. So there you go. Here we have all of the hex codes of the colors that we were using before, which you can get when you just hover over the color in the color picker of Power BI. All right, so now we can use that measure for conditional formatting. So I'm going to go back to where we were before, click on the FX button, and then over here, field value. Now, the field value here, CF, this is a conditional formatting measure, and it doesn't work. Okay, now let's click here and cancel. Let's see what I did wrong. And actually the measure looks fine. Oh, no, over here we are looking at the answer category, not just the answer. And so otherwise there would never be a match. All right, let me update the measure. Now the format over here is text, which is then also good, which is necessary for conditional formatting. Let's go back, bars, FX, cross our fingers. Let's hope it works this time. And so over here, CF, and ta-da. It works. Now what would be nice is if these headers over there, I would have also that same color. And so I'm going to go over here to small multiples, title, and do we have an FX button? Yes, we do. And here we can do exactly the same. So field value, CF, there you go. And because we have the data labels, you don't necessarily need to show the x-axis. So I'm going to turn the x-axis off, as well as the grid lines. And the grid lines we then also don't need. However, it's grayed out. Okay, so you first need to bring back the x-axis values, then go to grid lines, turn them off first, and only then you're allowed to turn the x-axis off. All right, so a little bit stupid, but okay, that's how it works. Okay, and there you go. Here we have the third chart option. Now that we have all three, let's put them right next to one another, because I'm very curious, which one would you pick? Which one do you think is the easiest to read? Now, a few insights from my side, but the first one, I think it's a little bit easier to compare the questions on the answer categories. Very bad and very good, because those have over here as a starting point, always the same starting point on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. For bad and good, that's not the case, and therefore a little bit more difficult. And that's exactly the problem that the second one solves, because there it is easier to compare bad and goods, because those have always the same starting point, the middle line there. But the problem is in reverse, because there, very bad and very good is a little bit more difficult to compare on. Okay, and then we have the small multiples chart over here. Now, that one separates everything, which makes it a little bit easier to compare between all of the questions, but also takes a little bit more space. All right, so let me know which one of these three charts would you pick, or would you go for a completely different chart? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, if you want to see more visualization in Power BI, then check out these two videos over here. And if you want to build complete reports with me from beginning to end, learn my approach and my systematic way in which I create reports so that every single time it is a success, then take part in my upcoming design transformation program. All right, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.